He's a phantom. Surprisingly, this is not a rendition of A Christmas Carol. Weird, right? Hello to the Wild Viewer, and welcome to day 5 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days, the cartoon specials. Today we are talking about the Danny Phantom Christmas Special. Danny Phantom is not a show that I personally grew up with, but I did start watching Danny Phantom when I was in high school. I haven't seen every single episode, so my history on the show is not 100% like you would expect it to be, especially if I'm going to be talking about a Danny Phantom episode. But I've seen this episode a number of times, and I'm only talking about that. Not going to talk about any other episode. I'll probably reference the Amber episode because that is my favorite episode. That is not the Christmas special. I didn't grow up with Danny Phantom, and yet I call myself a Nickelodeon kid. Danny Phantom was a Nicktoon that aired from 2004 to 2007, created by Butch Hartman, who at the time was also running The Fairly OddParents. The show focused on a 14-year-old named Danny Fenton, who became a half-ghost boy after looking inside a ghost portal his ghost-hunting parents built. Since that day, Danny fights as a ghost hero, as he fights against evil ghosts that make their way into his world to cause trouble. In 2005, The Fright Before Christmas premiered. This holiday special, all told in rhyme, sees Danny being thrown into a Christmas story written by the ghostwriter, and is forced to learn his lesson after showing how much of a real Scrooge he could be towards others when it comes to Christmas. I don't remember how exactly I came across this episode. I can't remember if I started watching Danny Phantom after the Christmas special, or if I was watching the show and the Christmas special then followed soon after. But what I do know is that this is one of the best episodes I think I've ever seen. And I know that might be a hot take, especially because I haven't seen a lot of the show. I mean, I know it has a big finale. I know this is a show that follows continuity, and it's a fighting show. It's a save the world kind of show, and we're dealing with bad people, or ghosts, the bad ghost. But I truthfully think that The Fright Before Christmas is a very well put together episode, and a very impressive one, just on the basis that it is the only Christmas special of a television show that I have ever seen that is told completely in rhyme. I mean, how long did it take to write that episode? I've been inspired for so long to do my own Christmas story told in rhyme, and I attempted it once, and I think it was okay, but I don't think I'll ever match up to just the perfection that it was for this episode. Some people can find that putting together a story told in rhyme is very easy, but when you tell it in the form of a 20-something minute episode of a television show, or you try to do it in a short film style, it is very hard. And I gotta give the crew of this episode props for having the mental capacity to really focus and write the whole show in rhyme. I'm sure it didn't take very long. Maybe it was a very easy process. Maybe I just suck at telling stories that are in rhyme. But I just find that really fascinating, and that is what sticks out to me about this episode. The thing is also, even if this was my first Danny Phantom episode, it's not like that I was really missing anything. This episode I don't think fell in line with any big continuity aspects of the show, although I do know that a lot of the villains that he faces off of, including Amber, they all show up at one point, but just for a little holiday party, and there's also this truce that they all have with each other. As mentioned, Danny has a hatred for Christmas in this episode. It really all spawns to his parents constantly arguing if Santa exists or not, which is really fascinating because it's a different take of somebody hating the holidays or not believing in Santa, not because they didn't get the gift that they wanted, Jimmy, but because the parents just suck all the fun out of it. So on the one hand, I could see that it would come off as very tiring and maybe even ridiculous because you didn't have great childhood personally, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like Danny's looking at it all wrong. He could just celebrate the holidays and get away from his family. Like, he could just come off as a little rebellious, but I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think it was a pretty interesting storyline. The concept of the Ghost Rider was also really clever, just by his name alone. And I think it's got a good message in the end. I think it definitely comes full circle, and Danny learns that, yeah, he was being a jerk, so let's knock it off. Like a bunch of these other Nicktoon Christmas specials, I make sure to watch this one every year. I feel like it's a crime if I don't watch this particular one, because I do really enjoy it a lot. I would say it's definitely up there with Christmas Who and Christmas Every Day. I think it's definitely the rhyming that does it for me. I'm just really blown away that they were able to make that work. So I really like it. I really like The Fright Before Christmas. I think it was very cool. It's a very great watch. And it may have incidentally been one of the reasons why I started watching Danny Phantom. Maybe one day I'll remember properly what came first, and maybe I'll tell you, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just make it a mystery forever. I'm not telling you a damn thing. But that's that. That's the Danny Phantom Christmas special. They only had one Christmas episode. The show only ran for 3 seasons. I think based on everything that I've read on, it seemed like that there was a few important storylines that were not Christmas related that needed to be told. So why bother about another Christmas story? I go back to what I said at the very beginning of this. I'm still amazed that we had a show about ghosts and they didn't do their rendition of A Christmas Carol, which is the second Christmas Carol mentioning that I've said in this series so far. I think it would make sense for SpongeBob to have their own Christmas Carol. But you would think with Danny Phantom, especially with the way that the episode was going, with Danny being somewhat of a Scrooge himself, they definitely would have done the whole Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. I mean, you have ghosts there. That's all I gotta say on the Danny Phantom Christmas special. We gotta keep moving along now, continue our journey down the path of cartoon Christmas specials, particularly in the Nickelodeon land that we have here. So we've talked about sea creatures, we've talked about fairies, we talked about babies, we talked about geniuses, and we've talked about ghosts. What else is there to talk about? Aliens! This one's gonna be a good one. See you tomorrow.